All right, what's up, folks? So, Guerrilla Radio episode 7, back with Susie. We're going to start a multiple kind of mini-series, I guess, on something that comes up quite often, and I think we need to talk a lot about, and that's basically debunking nutrition myths. So, we had, I don't know, we probably list like 30 of these, so to keep it somewhat condensed, we're going to cover just these 4 today, all right? But we're going to really dig into what I always try to differentiate with people when I'm talking food initially is the difference between appetite and hunger, right? So appetite is our psychological desire for food, okay? Hunger is our physiological drive for food. So oftentimes we think we're hungry, we're not. It's just that we're being either, maybe you saw an ad or you smelled something or something is triggered to where you think that you're hungry and you should be eating when you're really not. And I always tell the story too with people. I was driving the car, this is a while back with my wife, we were going down the road, we had just eaten lunch, we were going out to do some grocery shopping, and we drove past a McDonald's sign. Mm-hmm. And, not that we eat there, but we were just driving by, and we both saw it, didn't think anything of it, and then like 5 minutes down the road, she was like, I feel like a milkshake, and I was like, I could use a cheeseburger, and it was a cheeseburger and a milkshake on the ad. Oh. So like unconsciously, just driving by it, it goes in your head, and you're like, man, that sounds good. Mm-hmm. Not that we were hungry at all. But there's the appetite game. So we want to talk, as we dig through some of this stuff, we'll dig through what food companies basically do to market to us and how they appeal to that base instinct that makes you think that you want or need a certain food when you're just, it's purely manufactured.
Which is huge to come, I always talk with a lot of my members about basically being mindful when you have some of those feelings or those cravings or those hunger pains or whatever, and like, what truly is it? Same thing when it comes to, a lot of times people are dehydrated when they feel hungry. So it's just getting enough water in them and like all those little things, but being really mindful of and in tune with your body.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, when you're trying to eat better, it's about what you put into your body, and when you also have to be thinking about what you're putting in your mind, what's going into your head. I like that a lot. All right, so we got 4 key things that we're going to cover today. Very much some of the most common stuff we hear about. And the thing with busting myths is that when they are ingrained into like a society or human psyche, they're very, very hard to destroy. They come over time. So we open up with this idea that fat is bad. I think that's getting more and more obvious that that's not the case. But we'll give a little history, and then this PubMed is a national organization that organizes research. So a lot of the stuff, if I say research has been showing, then that's what I'm talking about. That's where I'm getting the information from. And a lot of these conclusions are drawn by surveys. So there's no one study that's going to tell us anything definitively. But when you can look at 19 studies that have covered 250,000 people over 2 decades, then you can start to draw conclusions over broad populations, over longitudinal studies. So nothing here is like one-off. It's been looked at over many years, and that's or else I wouldn't be talking about it. So this idea that fat is bad came out back in like the 70s with this guy Ansel Keys on the Time magazine. He came out, and effectively they followed one very basic idea that the thermodynamics applies to nutrition. So we know that carbs and protein have 4 grams or 4 calories per gram, right? And we know that fat has 9 calories per gram. So by pure virtue of more calories, people started coming up with fat is bad, right? And there's also a big play from food companies to help push that agenda.
Non-fat products.
Non-fat products. And so what happens when you take the fat out of a product? It tastes like garbage, so you have to load it with sugar. So there was a big push to vilify fat, and saying that we don't need it and that it causes obesity. In the interim, we're removing all fat from products, and we're dumping it full of sugar and trans fats.
Which is just as bad for fat. Or I should say storing fat.
Right, storing fat. And it's awful for you in so many other ways that we don't want to deal with. So, and that's also kind of the birth of trans fat and things like margarine, which is just grotesque. Like you shouldn't be eating margarine.
Throw it away right now.
Throw it away. We want to get rid of this idea that fat is bad. Too much of anything, of course, right? We don't want to overdo anything. But fat is an absolutely vital part of our diet, and we need fat. They are the precursor to all the hormones in the body. So when you start...
And your brain fuels off fat. Your brain is pretty much made up of fat.
And so this is a big myth we want to bust. Okay, if you avoid fat too much, if you're buying everything that says low fat, you can almost always be guaranteed that it's being filled with sugar, and it's way worse for you. So you're seeing a resurgence in some things like Kerrygold butter, right? Everybody's probably heard of bulletproof coffee by now, but this full fat butter is really making a comeback, and this is not manufactured in any way. It's just salted butter or unsalted butter, right? Just milk fat. So first and foremost, we're just busting that myth. And second one that I don't think is talked about as much is that salt is bad. And this was
kind of salt. I mean, that's a big part of the same thing with fat. It's the type. I mean, knowing quality and all of those kind of things helps too.
Sure. Yeah. So do you guys, when you guys talk about quality,
Pink
like
Himalayan salt.
pink Himalayan salt? Okay, cool. Yeah. So the longitudinal studies I looked at on this one, or the one that looked at a lot of the studies, showed that reducing salt did have an effect, like 2 to 5 millimeters of mercury reduction in blood pressure, right? That was all they did, which is not that significant, but that there was no definitive proof that it was a contributor to heart disease or heart attacks or anything along those lines. So salt is bad is, again, anything in excess, we don't want it that way, but there's nothing wrong with using salt, right? There's no reason to, and I think the reason why I get to that is salt may be a lot of issues for a lot of people, but you know, when you're trying to think, well, I need to reduce my salt intake and try and eat healthy, salt can be a big advantage, right?
Yep.
You want to do a lot of meats and vegetables. Good pink Himalayan
Yep.
sea salt or pink Himalayan salt is phenomenal. And if you're also thinking, well, I got to avoid that too, then you're just going to take a lot of flavor out of food, and you can get very fatigued with that food.
And going back to what's in products, like the more processed a food is, usually the sodium content is a lot higher. And so when you are trying to, and if you look at it, it's what, 2,400?
Yeah.
Or
Your
whatever
RDA.
milligrams, per day or whatever. And if you're eating whole foods, you're very unlikely to get to that maximum.
Sure.
If you're eating processed foods, you're way more likely to get to that max or exceed it.
Yeah.
And then that's when there's issues. You know what I mean?
That's a really
It
good
is
point.
totally, the more processed a food is, just like with the sugars added to it, I mean, sodium is thrown into most everything too. So.
Yeah. And I think that's good. We'll keep digging into that in the next episodes about the difference in how food chemists balance salt and sugar and fat to make it just super palatable.
Yeah.
Everybody wants.
And everyone crave it.
Right. So another one that's not talked about as much is that small meals throughout the day are better for your metabolism. This covered many studies as well. Basically, there was no difference in caloric burn on a day-to-day basis from those who ate maybe 4, 5, 6 very small meals versus those who maybe had 2 big meals. So I don't think that there's anything proving to us that small meals are more beneficial. I think the whole argument initially I've always heard was like the thermogenic effect, right? You just keep your body cranking through calories, and so it raises your metabolic rate. But none of the research I've seen has indicated that that's actually the case. And in fact, we can see a difference in that, right? More consumption of food can lead to increases in fat in the liver and things like in the kidneys. So it's actually less detrimental.
It's not kind of how our genetics were designed.
Right.
You know, so it kind of goes against maybe what's more natural for our body. If you think way back to our ancestors, way back, like they didn't have food readily available every single day.
Yeah, they
all
would
day
eat 6
long.
meals a day.
Yeah. So some of it's just going back to what is the easiest process and most natural for our bodies.
Yeah, totally. All right, and then the last one. This one drives me nuts because I see this all the time. So the big one is high cholesterol, right? Obviously a big deal. It used to be over 220 was the max. Now it's down to 200. And you can go 2 or 3 times and you show up with cholesterol over 200 and you're on a stat, right? No other consideration. So outside, there's another conversation on cholesterol ratio and how that might be a better indicator, but nonetheless, what we oftentimes are told is the culprit to high blood cholesterol is dietary cholesterol, right? The egg was vilified for years, right? So they said get rid of the yolk.
No yolks, no
almost
yolks.
all of the good fats and all of the minerals and everything good in the egg is from the yolk. So if you remove the yolk, you're basically getting some protein from the egg white. So this myth is being more and more busted that an increase in your dietary cholesterol does not necessarily mean an increase in your blood cholesterol. And I had the stat written down. It was 17 studies, 263,938 people showed zero evidence that an increase in dietary cholesterol was the reason that you have an increase in blood cholesterol.
Yeah.
And in fact, what we find is one of the largest culprits for increased LDLs or bad cholesterol is sugar.
Yep.
Right? So we take in too much sugar, our muscles get full of. So you take in carbohydrates, it's broken down into glucose, it goes into your muscles, right? Insulin takes it to your muscles. Once your muscles get totally full of sugar, it needs somewhere else to store it. So it starts to store it in the liver. And what can happen in the liver is then that these glucose molecules get turned into very low density lipoproteins, or VLDLs. These are the very small LDLs, or bad cholesterol. These are the ones that actually get stuck in like the epithelial lining of arteries and create atherosclerosis. So we can see that an increase in blood cholesterol can be correlated to an increase in sugar intake and carbohydrate intake, but we do not see where it's related to dietary cholesterol,
right.
And that's becoming more and more prevalent. So eat the freaking yolk, man. I think it's the best part of it.
Yeah, good fats. Kind of goes back to the, getting the good fats in and focusing on that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I think that's 4 big ones. Hope it helps. Like I said, PubMed, and maybe when I post this, I'll post the links to some of the other research I was reading through. And the big one we're going to tackle next time is breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Yep.
Manufactured by food companies to sell you more cereal.
And then make
That's
you
what I'm
eat longer.
Make you eat longer, yeah.
All day
if you
long.
cut out,
Be
think
hungry
about
all day
it.
long.
If everybody went to like an intermittent fasting model and cut out a third of their meal, how much less food would be consumed every day? It'd be astronomical.
Oh yeah, for sure. When I eat breakfast, I totally tend to eat more all day.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. We'll see you next time.